So the next one here, that should be Kodak. I saw it. Yep. No. Shirt cuff is there. Oh, come on. This one is not feeling well. I tried 3 ends. Okay.
The very last one. So I got a perfect on my car, so I get my deposit back.
Next one is Jacob Richard. Should be over here somewhere. Just like centered right below it, like this.
Like,
Richard, Abraham, Ren. I'm gonna have to re-alphabetize these. I don't know what I did with them. Abraham, Ren. And then Evelyn Shepherd is the last one. Shabbat Shalom.
Are we using books?
Yes.
Or using
Books.
Using books.
Yes.
Books just didn't know.
Yeah. I don't know if anyone who came in yet has gotten them yet. Very good.
do you have your list with you?
Cool. Let's hope. Well, Shabbat Shalom, everyone. Shabbat Shalom. It is so good to be together. It's also so good to hear the voices of our young people as we join together for Siyum HaSefer. All right, so there is a cliche. There's a cliche that the Jewish people is a forever perishing people. We are a people who at various times in our history, by will or by will taken from us, have had our numbers increase or decrease. And it's sometimes the way of the Jewish community to despair at the changes that happen over time. And we look at the numbers and often count down. But the period of the Omer between Passover and Shavuot, well, that's a period in which we count up. And sometimes we fixate too much on quantity and we don't spend enough time thinking about quality. If you want to be inspired by quality, then spend a Sunday morning or a Tuesday or Wednesday evening in our congregation school and listen to the words and thoughts and ideas brought forward by our young students and listen to the wisdom and kindness and passion that emanates from our teachers. And you'll be inspired and motivated to simply count our blessings. This Shabbat evening is Siyum HaSefer, a completion of the beginning of one's learning from the Hebrew prayers of our people. It's a moment in which we quite literally hand the prayers of our ancestors to our next generations. It is a time in which we express gratitude to our teachers for gifting our students with the knowledge to access the thoughts and hopes and prayers of the generations that stood before us. And it is a time that we recognize parents who are our children's finest teachers and the role they have in teaching our children lessons of spirituality and growth. It's a beautiful moment, and it's a moment of enlightenment. But in moments from now, after our youth choir sings, we're going to invite some of our teachers. We're going to invite Nicole Boyko and Maddie Powell and Amber Franklin forward, who are going to light and kindle our Shabbat candles. And we do so with the knowledge that they bring a tremendous amount of light into our community, into our congregation. So if you'd like to come up to our bima now, that would be wonderful, as we have the opportunity to listen to our youth choir. That's our teachers. So Nicole and Maddie and Amber, come on up. And as we're calling them up too, I want to say a special thank you to Mandy, who has been a mainstay at Congregation Shalom in our young people's and parents and our teachers' lives. And I also want to thank Brian Avner, who in just one short year has done a remarkable job at moving our school from being at home to in-person education, and who has so quickly earned the respect and trust of our teachers, our parents, and our students, who's taken us truly from strength to strength. So let's turn now to Hine Matov. Our youth choir is going to lead us in Hine Matov as we consider how wonderful it is when brothers and sisters can gather together in peace.
Hine Yachad, Hine Matov U'Manayim, Shevet Achim Gam Yachad. Matov U'Manayim, Shevet Achim Gam Yachad. Hine 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 Matov U'Manayim, Shevet Achim Gam Yachad.
We now turn back in our Siddur to page 2, and as we do so, we thank our choir, our youth choir, for singing so beautifully, as they always do when we join together. We turn back to page 2 as we turn to our candle blessing. As I said, our teachers bring the spirit of enlightenment into the lives of our children. When we look up above the ark, we see the Ner Tamid, the eternal light, and that is only kept lit when people are struggling and striving to make sure that the next generation has the morals and values passed from generation to generation. So we're grateful to all of our teachers as they will now light the Shabbat candles, and our cantor will sing the blessing.
Let's all sing together. Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, asher kiddushanu b'mitzvotav, v'tzivanu lehadlik ner shel Shabbat.
And let's read together on page 3. As these Shabbat candles give light to all who behold them, so may we by our lives give light to all who behold us, as their brightness reminds us of the generations of Israel who have kindled light. So may we in our own day be among those who kindle light. Thank you for kindling light in our community. We are now going to turn to page 26 as we join together in the Chatzi Kaddish, page 26.
Yitgadal v'yitkadash shemei Rabbam, be'alma divrach chirutei v'yamlich malchutei, b'chayechon v'yomechon uv'chaye decho beit Yisrael, ba'agala uvizman kari ve'imeru amen. Yehei shmei Rabba mevarach le'alam le'ol me'almaya yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitpa'ar v'yitromam v'yitnaseh v'yitadar v'yitaleh v'yitalal shemei dekudesha brichu la'ela min kol birchata v'shirata tushbechata v'nechemata damiran be'alma ve'imeru amen.
At the bottom of page 27, entrances to holiness are everywhere. The possibility of ascent is all the time. Even at unlikely times and through unlikely places, there is no place on earth without the presence. We rise now as we turn to the call to worship on page 28.
Lai la 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 Lai la 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 Lai la 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 Lai la 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 Lai la 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 Lai la 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 Baruch Hu et Adonai HaMevorach Baruch Adonai HaMevorach HaMevorach Le'olam Va'ed HaMevorach HaMevorach Le'olam
read together now in the Hebrew on page 30. Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, asher bidvaro ma'ariv aravim, b'chochma poteach she'arim, uvitvuna mishaneh itim, umachalif et hazmanim, sader et hakochavim b'mishmerotehem berakia kirtzono. Borei yom v'layla, golel or mipnei choshech, v'choshech mipnei or. Umavir yom umevi layla, umavdil ben yom uvein layla, Adonai tzavaot shemo. El chai v'kayam tamid imloch alenu le'olam va'ed. Baruch atah Adonai, hama'ariv aravim. We turn to the top of page 33, as we read together in the English. As you taught Torah to those whose names I bear, teach me Torah too. Its mystery beckons, yet I struggle with its truth. You meant Torah for me. Did you mean the struggle for me too? Don't let me struggle alone. Help me to understand, to be wise, to listen, to know. Lead me into the mystery. Baruch atah Adonai, Ohev Amo Yisrael. Before we continue our service, I'd like to invite up all of our Aleph students and their parents and their teachers to come forward up onto our bima. All of our Aleph students, that's our third graders. If you'd like to come to the middle of the bima and stand on the steps. And I'd also like to call Maddie Powell and Amber Franklin and Felice Bruskin as well to come forward, as they are going to have the honor in just a moment to be presenting all of our certificates to our young people as well. So would all of the parents come on over here? We've got special sidurim for you to be giving to your young people. These are the sidurim. For those of you who don't know, the Siyum HaSefer is a moment in which we mark the end of the beginning, in a sense, the end of the beginning of their first year of Hebrew education, whether it's here at Congregation Shalom or whether they've done it elsewhere as well. We're going to be giving all of you a siddur to give to your young people who are going to be using this siddur throughout all of their Hebrew education here at Congregation Shalom. And then hopefully one day, provided that they hold on to them, they'll be able to use them as they become bar and bat mitzvah up here on this bima. And we pray for many, many years to come after that. And so we're going to invite all of the parents to come forward to find your child's siddur. This is going to work. We can do this. And as you do, then let's call it forward anybody who has a child whose last name begins with A through L. Okay, A through L. If you'd like to come forward, and we'll give you your child's siddur. And as you do, I want you to think of words that you might say to your child. Words you might say to your child as you present them with this siddur. When I think of words that I'm going to say to Hannah, who's going to be receiving hers, one of the things I'm thinking about is the fact that within these siddurim are the prayers and the hopes and the wishes of the generations that stood before us. Those who stood in this very place, but also those that go back millennia. Those who worshipped in the great temple in Jerusalem, and those who schlepped the exile over 2,000 years throughout difficulties and challenges, with moments of great joy and moments of great sadness. These prayers have been with us all this time. And when we give that to the next generation, then maybe they can also find the words to make meaning of their lives, to make meaning of all of the difficulties, yet all of the joys of life that have been passed from generation to generation. How beautiful to read the poetry of those who walked the earth before us, and yet to still have hopes and yearnings of our own hearts that can become made manifest when we say these prayers, when we think these thoughts, when we also reach out to something that is truly greater than ourselves. Then we can find that sense of wholeness and holiness in our lives each and every day when we need it. I'm through stalling. So now, if all of the parents, if you would like to take a moment, turn to your young people and present them with this siddur that they will be using through all of their Hebrew education. And now, if you've shared the words of your heart, I'd like to invite all of the parents to return to your seats, but all of the young people, all of our Aleph students, our third graders, to stay up here as you're going to lead us in the Shema.
Page 34. You stay up there. You stay up there. We're going to be on page 34 for Shema. I'm waiting for the cue.
We turn now to page 34. 34 in our Siddur, and this is going to be the first prayer that you all read out of your Siddur together, and we join together in the watchword of our faith, the Shema.
Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad, Baruch Shem Kevod Malchuto, Le'olam Va'ed. You shall love the Lord your God with all your soul and with all of your mind. Hold on tight as you go, teach them what you know. As they grow, teach them so they know. Them so they know.
That was absolutely beautiful. All of the adults, everybody in the congregation can be seated except our young people. If you would like to step forward to come to your teachers have certificates for you to mark this very special moment. If you'd like to come forward and receive your certificate from your teacher. And then, in just a moment, we are going to do the Shehechianu. We're going to say a very special blessing that we say on all occasions of firsts and occasions in which we are thankful to God for giving us life and for sustaining us and for allowing us to reach such wonderful moments like this one.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam shehechianu v'kimanu v'higiyanu lazman hazeh. Let's give him a big amen. Come on.
Blessed are you, eternal our God, ruler over the universe, who has given us life, who has sustained us, and who has brought us to this very special moment today. And let us say,
Amen.
You know, when our ancestors were at the beginning of something extraordinary, they looked out over the Sea of Reeds with the Egyptians closing in behind them. They didn't think that it was possible for them to be able to get across that sea, but they took one step after the other, one step after the other. And when they took it one step at a time, they marched right into that sea. And when they thought that perhaps nothing could happen, something extraordinary happened, and the sea parted in front of them. You are at the beginning of your Hebrew studies, and you're learning one letter at a time, one word at a time, and all those letters and all those words, they're going to come together. They're going to form sentences and stories and songs. And when you get to that other side of that learning and you look back at all you've accomplished, perhaps you'll sing this very song that our ancestors did at the shores of the sea.
Who's like you? Come on, who's like you? Who's like you? Who's everybody now? Who's like you? Who's like you? Who's like you? Who's like you?
That very song. Well, it was absolutely wonderful learning and being up here with you in this very special moment. Always remember that as you move forward one step at a time, that not only are you here with your peers and your families and your friends and your teachers, but that God is with you as well. So we're going to invite you now to return to your seats, and we are going to continue now on page 42. Page 42. Actually, 43. Let's read together. Give us a place to rest, Adonai our God. Bring us into shelter in the soft, long evening shadows of your truth. For with you are true protection and safety, and in your presence are acceptance and gentle love. Watch over us as we go forth, prepare for us as we return. Spread over us your shelter of peace, over all we love, over our Jerusalem and yours. Baruch atah Adonai, haporei sukat shalom aleinu, ve'al kol amo Yisrael, ve'al Yerushalayim. We continue now with Vishamru, as our youth choir will lead us together on page 44.
Vishamru b'nei Yisrael, Shabbat, Lasot et HaShabbat, Dorotam berit olam, Be'eni uvein b'nei Yisrael, Oti le'olam, Iz Adonai ve'et haaretz, ubayom hashvi'i Shabbat vayinafach.
We rise now as we turn to page 46 for the tefillah.
Adonai sifatai tiftach ufi yagid tehilatecha. Adonai, open up my lips that my mouth may declare your praise. Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu ve'Elohei avoteinu ve'imoteinu, Elohei Avraham, Elohei Yitzchak, ve'Elohei Yaakov, Elohei Sarah, Elohei Rivka, Elohei Rachel, ve'Elohei Leah, Ha'el hagadol hagibor v'hanora, El Elyon, Gomel chasadim tovim, V'konei hakol, V'zocher chasdei avot ve'imahot, Umevi geula livnei v'neihem, Lema'an shemo be'ahava, Melech ozer u'moshia u'magen, Baruch atah Adonai, Magen Avraham ve'ezrat Sarah. Atah gibor le'olam Adonai, Mechaye hakol atah rav lehoshia, Morid hatal. Mechalkel chayim bechesed, Mechaye hakol berachamim rabim, Somech noflim verofei cholim, Umatir asurim, Umekayem emunato, Lishenei afar, Micha mocha ba'al gevurot, Umido melach, Melech memit, Umechayeh, Umatzmiach Yeshua, V'ne'eman atah lehachayot hakol, Baruch atah Adonai, Mechaye hakol. Atah kadosh v'shimcha kadosh, U'kadoshim b'chol yom, Yehalalucha selah, Baruch atah Adonai, Ha'el hakadosh.
You may be seated. We continue on page 55, reading responsively. That's page 55. May these hours of rest and renewal open our hearts to joy and our minds to truth. May all who struggle find rest on this day. May all who suffer find solace. May all who hurt find healing on this day. May all who despair find purpose. May all who hunger find fulfillment on this day. And may this day fulfill its promise. Baruch atah Adonai, Mekadesh HaShabbat. We turn now to the top of page 57. Uretzei Adonai Eloheinu be'amecha Yisrael, utfilatam be'avad tekabel, utehil ratzon tamid avodat Yisrael amecha. Ever-present one, may we, your people Israel, be worthy in our deeds and our prayer. Wherever we live, wherever we seek you, in this land, in Zion restored, in all lands, you are our God, whom alone we serve in reverence. Baruch atah Adonai, shotecha levadecha b'yirah na'avod. On page 59, we find the Hoda'ah prayer that reminds us to be grateful for all of the blessings that come our way. Let's read this reading together, as I think that we can all experience a great deal of gratitude in a moment in which we watch our young people sing and lead us in prayer and receive their Sidurim with hope in their hearts and the knowledge that they will continue to take steps towards adulthood. Let's read at the bottom of page 59. When we behold your heavens, the work of your fingers, the moon and stars that you set in place, what are we humans that you are mindful of us? We mortals that you take note of us. You made us little less than divine, adorned us with glory and majesty. You gave us dominion over your handiwork, laying the world at our feet. How majestic is your name throughout the earth. Baruch atah Adonai, hatov shimcha u'cha na'eh lehodot.
Tasim le'olam, shalom, shalom rava Yisrael amcha, tasim le'olam, ki atahu melech adon, lechol hashalom. Melech Adon, lechol hashalom, shalom rav al Yisrael amcha, tasim Shalom Rav al Yisrael Amcha Tasim Le'olam B'tov Be'enecha Levarech Et Amcha Yisrael B'chol eit u'b'chol sha'a Bishlomecha Shalom Rav al Yisrael Amcha Tasim Le'olam Shalom Rav al Yisrael Amcha Tasim Le'olam Tasim Le'olam Tasim Le'olam.
Want to thank our youth choir for singing so beautifully, and Miss Wendy and Catcher Purper for leading them and teaching them. You know, when we say a prayer for peace, we think of shalom, and certainly this world is in need of that sense of peace that we may feel here within our sanctuary. We pray that it extends out. The world is often filled with brokenness, but so too are the hearts of friends and family who might be in need of healing as well. And so we turn from praying for shalom for the world to praying for shalem, a sense of wholeness for our loved ones, those who might be in need of a refuat nefesh or a refuat guf. And particularly in our hearts and minds here at Congregation Shalom, we're thinking of Shandel Batfrida Malka, Julie Borikoff, Margot Roz, Carol Dubin, Samsara Vizcaya, Sharon Rotman, Bob Radke, Lyle Rubel, Mark Cook, Moshe Ben Nechama, Jean Bass, Alan Turner, Steve Toplinsky, Myron Dvorkin, Esther Cohen, Lisa Furstad, Terry Finch, Harav Ilana Miriam Batchava, Faye Levin, Sarah Chelba Yocheved Alexander, Tia Barrett, Wendy Salzberg, Steve Plotkin, Kathy Peltz, Avram Ben Naftali, Emma and Max, Doug Cruz, Nadiva Sarah Batliba, Carol Rovner, David Goldstein, Marilyn Harmon, Chris St. Martin, Ellen Futterman, Barry Bursack, Debbie Kelly, Janet Meister, Ahuva Yocheved Bat Chaim Velea, Susan Sack, Reitza Tzvia Batshena Etta, Mary Frankowitz, Sophia Rubenstein, Alana Hemelfarb, Chris Gould, Charmaine Hayden, Wendy Wiviet, Sue Weller, Andrew Messerman, Kate Wilson, Marlene Marks, Yocheved Bat Rondo V'chaim, Walter Shapiro, Otto Feller, Avraham Bat Frida, Marla Jakowski, Michael Sachek, David Rotter, Elaine Wallenberg, Peter Becker, Mark Cook, Natalie Cohen, Steve Isaacson, Alice Green, Yaakov Peck, Ann Becker, Elaine Keller, and Josh Hirsch. If there are names that should be added to this list or names that should be pronounced differently than I did, I invite you to hold those names in your heart as we turn to the words of the Misha Berach.
Misha Berach Avoteinu Mekor HaBracha Le'imoteinu. May the source of strength, who blessed the ones before us, help us find the courage to make our lives a blessing, and let us say, Amen. Misha Berach Imoteinu Mekor HaBracha La'avoteinu. Bless those in need of healing with refuah shlema, the renewal of body, the renewal of spirit, and let us all say, Amen.
those beautiful words of healing still echoing in our hearts and minds, we take this time now for silent reflection.
Shabbat Shalom, everyone.
Shabbat Shalom.
It is so nice to be here with all of you and to see the light pouring in through the windows behind us. We are getting closer and closer to summer. And I have a story that I'd really love to share with you all this evening. So if I could get our kiddos to come over here to the front part of the bima right here. Don't be shy, come on over. Okay. Once there was a town with 2 synagogues, and one of those synagogues was in the wealthy part of town, and you've never in your entire life seen a synagogue this impressive. Beautifully designed, inside and out, the centerpiece of the synagogue was the ark. Oh, that ark. It had 2 enormous gold-plated doors, and if you opened them, if you were strong enough to open them, you would see dozens of Torah scrolls, each one wrapped in a mantle of the finest velvet, each one topped with beautiful, shimmering golden crowns. Yes, this was the most stunning synagogue you've ever seen. It had everything a synagogue could possibly have, except for one thing: people, congregants. This synagogue, lovely as it was always empty. No one ever came to pray. No one came to sit and enjoy the space. No one came to study. No one came at all. Every single week, the rabbi of the synagogue would stop by on Shabbat morning, open up those enormous doors in the front, and look around. And every week, the rabbi of the synagogue would see that nothing had been disturbed. Everything was exactly as it had been the week before. And then the rabbi would back her way out of the synagogue, close the doors, and lock them shut for another week. But the other synagogue, well, that synagogue couldn't have been any more different. Located in the poorest part of town, it was small and dark when it was built, and time had not been kind to it. The roof leaked, and in the winter, cold blasts of wind seemed to blow into the endless cracks and holes in the walls. The floors creaked, and every bench looked like it was about to break down. A lot of words had been used to describe this synagogue. Beautiful wasn't one of them. But there was one thing that this synagogue did have: people, hundreds of them. Every single Shabbat, the synagogue was full. Of course, none of them had any money. The synagogue was so poor it couldn't afford a Torah scroll. This had always been their greatest sadness. So finally, they decided to make a fake scroll. They took 2 wooden dowels and attached it to a really long sheet of parchment paper. They rolled it up and wrapped it in a tattered bit of cloth, which was, of course, the best they could find, and they put it in an old wobbly crate with a threadbare curtain hanging in front as their ark. There was one old man in the congregation, almost completely blind, who long ago memorized the entire Torah, word by word. Every week, when the time came to read the Shabbat Torah reading, they would open up the scroll, and he would pretend to read from it as he chanted the words. The members of the congregation hung on his every word, and after each aliyah, after each reading, the congregation would burst into a mass of talking. The people would start discussing and debating each and every word they heard. They'd try to find meaning in every phrase. Nothing made them happier than living and breathing these words of Torah. And so we come to another Shabbat morning. Much like every Shabbat morning which came before, the rabbi of the wealthy congregation opened the doors and peeked inside. Satisfied that, as always, nothing had changed, the rabbi prepared to leave when she noticed a small sound, a little scratching noise. She started looking around for, a mouse or bugs? Soon she realized that the sound was coming from the ark. How was that possible? She cracked open the doors just a little bit, and suddenly she was thrown back as the doors were flung open from the inside. And then the rabbi laid on the ground, stunned, as she watched a swarm of something come out of the ark. Now the rabbi sat up and she swatted at them like they were gnats, but they were everywhere. Now she was truly stunned because she realized they weren't bugs and they weren't bees, they were letters. Hundreds and thousands of Hebrew letters flying through the air. And then suddenly she heard a sharp whistle. All the letters started lining up like little tiny soldiers. A line of all the Alephes, a line of all the Bets, and so on. All lining up in front of one large Aleph, the one who blew the whistle, it seems. And then, when they had formed their ranks, they began to march. Hut, 2, 3, 4, hut, 2, 3, 4, stop! The rabbi called out. What are you doing? Where are you going? The Aleph called, halt, and turned to face the rabbi. We're leaving. Leaving? Why would you leave? We've treated you so well. We've honored you with the finest ark, the finest of everything. We've shown you all the respect and reverence in the world. That's true, Rabbi. You've given us a lovely home and you've respected us, but you haven't loved us. We know you haven't loved us because you've kept us locked up in here for so long. That's not where we're meant to be. We need to be taken out of there and read and thought about and shared. In there, we're just letters. But we want to be teachings, and for that, we need people. Please, cried the rabbi, please don't leave us. Why not, said the Aleph. You left us long ago. And the rabbi watched, distraught, as all those letters marched out of that giant, beautiful, empty synagogue. And when they had almost all left, the very last Tav stopped, turned around, and motioned for the rabbi to follow. So she did. She followed the letters as they marched across town, right towards the oldest, most broken-down building in town, the other synagogue. They marched in just at the moment that the Torah was lifted after the reading. And then, as the old man held that scroll high in the air, the letters jumped across the air and across the room right onto the parchment. The old man felt the scroll growing heavier and heavier as each letter found its proper place. And then, when there were no more letters in the air and not a sound could be heard in the synagogue, he gently placed the Torah on the wobbly table and ran his fingertips across the page. Feeling letters where there had been none, he raised his face, tears streaming down it, and called out, "It's a miracle. Our Torah is real." The congregants circled the bima, all of them wanting to see, and they started to sing in joy, their voices joining together as one one of the elders of the congregation scooped up the scroll and held it close to her chest and started dancing. And soon the entire congregation was dancing and singing in joy until, "Stop!" the rabbi's voice thundered from the back of the room. Instantly, the singers were silent and the dancers were still. Frozen in place, they watched the rabbi walk, her face red with anger, across the room. With every step, the rabbi found herself getting more and more furious. After all the things she'd seen today, flying letters, marching letters, this was too much. The Torah was not to be treated in such an undignified way. Dancing with it, screaming around it, this would not do. She walked up to the woman holding the scroll and the old blind reader standing beside her, and she said to them, "How could you do such a thing? How could you treat a holy Torah in such a way? This Torah is sacred and it must be treated as such." "How can you not dance with it?" the woman asked back. "This Torah, it's the source of our joy. It is the greatest gift that God could have ever given us. It's our entire life, and it's the legacy we will pass on to our children. How can we not sing and dance and smile when we are in its presence? Here, try it. Hold the scroll in your arms, Rabbi. Hold it close." It had been a long, long time since the rabbi had held a Torah scroll in her arms, but slowly she took it, and she was surprised to find that it fit just right. It felt even holier there than it had in the ark. She held it close to her and rested her face against it, tears now rolling down her cheeks, until she heard from deep inside the scroll a still small voice, "Dance." Without even realizing she was doing it, the rabbi began to move her feet. The congregation started singing again. Their voices grew, and the rabbi began to dance in earnest and sing. And then everyone was dancing and singing, taking turns holding the scroll. They danced and they sang and they celebrated all day. A week later, when the congregants began to show up at the poor synagogue for Shabbat services, they found that the rabbi was already there, sitting quietly in the front row. When they opened up the scroll and the man read from it, the rabbi leaned forward, straining to hear every single letter. And after each section, the rabbi joined in the spirited discussions, passing on her favorite teachings from her mentors and listening to the wisdom of her new friends as well. But she always remembered the first piece of wisdom that this Torah had given her, the most important of all. Nothing which is kept locked away can ever be truly holy. That which we share with others, that is holy. And so it was every week in the new synagogue, which they were all building together, right in the center of town. Not fancy, but solid, and with an ark that could open easily. The rabbi would join the congregation rich in holiness and listen to the Torah being read and join in the discussions after. And then the rabbi would be given the honor of raising up the Torah. She'd lift it high, unscrolling it as wide as she could, and then bring it back down close to her heart. And then she'd dance, and she wouldn't stop dancing until everyone joined in with her. We are very fortunate to be a part of a community like the one at the second synagogue, so full of life and joy. We come to the sanctuary to pray together on Shabbat. We study Torah, both the words in the scroll and the Torah that we live each and every day, with our acts of loving kindness, tzedakah, and strong moral character. And we have incredible educators who teach our children to read our holy language, celebrate Jewish holidays, and love being Jewish. Tonight, third graders and Aleph students, you each received your Sidurim. They are filled with hundreds and thousands of Hebrew letters, which you are learning to read. It is our hope that you will find your place in this community. We are proud of the wonderful Jewish children you are, and we cannot wait to see how you will grow. Shabbat Shalom.
And so we pray that those letters that are in the Siddur and our Torah, that they're going to leap forward from our pages and that they'll enter into your hearts. That's where they belong. May they all be inscribed upon our hearts. And so we are going to turn now to the counting of the Omer, which can be found on page 278 in your Siddur. That's page 278. I invite you now to rise. The counting of the Omer between Pesach and Shavuot is a time in which we count. We count many things. Particularly right now, we should be counting our blessings, that we are together, that we are a community, that we are whole. And so let's say these words together. Hineni muchan umzmuman lekayem mitzvat aseh shel sfirat haomer. And let's say the blessing together. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kitshanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu al sfirat haomer. Our praise to you, Adonai, sovereign of all, who hallows us with mitzvot, commanding us to count the Omer. Hayom echad ve'esrim yom shehem shlosha shavuot la'omer. Today is the 21st day, that is 3 weeks of the Omer. One of the great things that we do is we celebrate moments of counting, particularly when we count our birthdays. So if you have a birthday in the month of May, if you're going to have a birthday in the month of May, whether you are young or young at heart, we invite you now to come up so that you have the honor of opening up our Ark doors as we turn in our Siddur to page 282 for Elenu. So we invite everybody up who has a birthday, just to add to the incentive of coming up here and receiving a blessing. We also have the blessing of sugar. So you can come up and have a great Yom Haledet Sameach lollipop. So invite all of you who have birthdays. This is it, May? I think looking out, I know some of you have birthdays in May, but I'm not going to call you up individually. So come on up. We invite you to open up our Ark doors as we turn to the sacred words of Elenu.
I'm bilocating. Oh, thank you. Alenu l'shabeach la'adon ha'kol la'teit gedula le'yotzer breshit shelo asanu kegoye ha'aratzot velo samanu kemishpechot ha'adama shelo sam chelkenu kahem v'gor alenu kechol hamonam va'anachnu koreim umishtachavim umodim lifnei melech malachei hamelachim hakadosh baruch hu v'ne'emar v'haya Adonai lemelech al kol haaretz bayom hahu yeh Adonai echad Ushemo echad. Happy birthday to us. Happy birthday to us. Happy birthday, dear us. Happy birthday to us.
Yom Haledet Sameach, Yom Haledet Sameach, Yom Haledet Sameach, Yom Haledet Sameach. We now invite all of our young people, if you would go and stand with your parents, because when we're together, and you may be seated at this time, one of the most important things that we can do when we're together is take the opportunity to bless each other. So parents, I am going to invite you to place your hands upon your children's heads, and if you would repeat after me. Yisa Adonai, Panav Elecha, V'yasem Lecha, Shalom. And you can reach out your hand also to, if you have children or loved ones or friends that are far away, you can send out your thoughts to them as well. And repeat after me. May God always smile upon you and bless you with God's choicest of blessings, the blessing of Shalom. And now, if you want to have your kids place your hands on your parents' heads or your grandparents' heads, or if you are sitting nearby somebody that you love, you can do the same thing and place their hands on their heads as well. And repeat after the kids, if you could repeat after me, may God bless the love between you and me. And you say, Amen. And you can give them a hug and a kiss. You know, it's important to feel the hands of our loved ones, whether it be physically on our heads, but it's also, we can certainly feel the spiritual hands of those for whom we have loved and lost on our hands as well, on our heads as well. Sometimes, while we feel the physical hands of those who are with us, we too can feel the spiritual hands of those for whom we love, whether it is parents who we've loved and lost, or children that we've loved and lost, or brothers and sisters and friends. Sometimes we can feel that spiritual touch, and we can feel blessed. We can feel blessed not only with the love that we know is still shining down upon us, but also we can feel loved and feel blessed by the memory of our loved ones that guide each and every one of our steps. Those people who we are remembering here at Congregation Shalom, for whom we mark their Shiva, we think of Noah Arnold, we think of Ronald Cohen, we think of Pauline Gale, we think of Cyril Newman. May their memories be for a blessing. We also think of all those for whom we have loved and lost during the period of Shloshim. We think of Harriet Dizak, Adeline Dominitz, Jordan Fishman, Cecilia Rinsky, John Veal, and Ellen Futterman. And to those names, too, we add those who have passed in seasons gone by, for whom we mark their yahrzeit this evening. Remember Jacob Angel, Arnold Ansfield, Edith Arnstein, Lillian Asher, Michael Axel, Isidore Barron, Sybil B. Becker, Werner Benjamin, Dave Berkowitz, Sheldon Bernstein, Edith Bryn, Harold Chadis, Judith Cohen, Seymour Ellis, Barbara Bressler, Garson, Nellie Herlock, Darwin M. Huxley, Anita Switsky-Kane, Roberta Cower, Jerry Kohlenberg, Irving Kurzberg, Harvey Curzon, Sanford Letterman, Samuel Leon, Clara Manis, Jen Margolis, Martin Merle, Miriam Marins, Charlotte Mishlo, Emmanuel Mike Oxman, Daniel Adam Plotkin, Elaine Rose, Nathan Ruppa, Esther Schuckman, Joseph Shutkin, Judy Schwartz, Florence Sussman, Beatrice Tarlow, Sally Judith Toshkin, Leo Weller, Leo Willis. If there are names that should be added to this list or names that should be pronounced differently than I did, please do call those names out loud as I look in your direction. In addition to the names of our loved ones, so too do we think of all those who died due to war and or terrorism, all those who died in defense of this nation and allied nations' ideals. And it's also important that we mention that we are marking this week Yom HaZikaron, Israel Memorial Day, for all those soldiers who have died in defense of the state of Israel. We think of all those who perished due to this terrible virus that has stricken our nation, as well as the virus of xenophobia and racism. We also think of all those who perished during the Holocaust. We rise now as one community. Our griefs and sympathies are mingled as we turn to words that are sanctified by memory, words glorified by hope. The Kaddish Yatom, the Mourner's Kaddish, can be found on page 294, and we read these sacred words together. Yit Gadal v'yit Kadash Shmei Rabbah. B'alma divrach yute v'amlich malchute. B'chayechon uv'yomechon uv'chayei dechol Beit Yisrael. Ba'agala uv'izman kariv v'yamru Amen. Yehei Shmei Rabbah mevorach le'olam u'lamei amaya. Yit barach v'yishtabach v'yit pa'ar v'yit ramam v'yit naseh. V'itadar v'italev v'italal shmei dekudesha brichu le'ela min kol birchata v'shirata tushbechata v'nechemata de'amiran be'alma v'yamru amen. Yehi shlama rabba min shemaya v'chaim aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael v'yamru amen. Ose shalom bimromav hu yaseh shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael v'yamru amen. May the source of peace and peace to all who mourn and comfort to all who are bereaved. And let us say, amen. You may be seated. In our tradition, we learn that those who sow in tears shall reap in joy. We always turn from sadness to joy. We turn from bitterness to sweet. And it's a joy that we have so many wonderful things that are happening at our congregation and wonderful leaders in our community as well. It's a joy now to call upon David Arnstein, a member of our congregational leadership, who is going to come forward and share some announcements on behalf of our congregation. Shabbat Shalom, David. It's nice to share the bima with you.
Thank you. Thanks, Rabbi. Okay. Thank you, Rabbi. Shabbat Shalom. Good job to the third graders tonight. Great to be here with everybody. Also great to hear the youth choir again. Did excellent. We look forward to everybody joining us tonight for the Onik Shabbat for comedy sports afterwards. So hope you're going to be joining us. A few announcements tonight. Our Shalom softball team is getting ready to take the field. So please reach out to Jason Markey if you're interested in joining the team. Our confirmation trip just returned from New York City over the weekend. So thank you to Brian and Peyton for a wonderful trip. My daughter went on the trip and had an amazing time. So thanks for all the hard work on that trip. We have a busy month at Shalom in May as you wrap up religious school. So a few announcements around that. On May 15th, we'll have our Sunday religious school pancake breakfast. Also on this day, Tikkun Ha'ar is collecting baby clothes and baby items here at Temple for the Glean Machine collection. So please bring items on May 15th. Then on Sunday, May 22nd, we have the last day of religious school, and our family have a family learning and day and a concert. And on May 20th, we start with the installation of Rabbi Pezlowski. I know our family will be joining us from Kansas City, so please join us for a special concert from Dan Nichols and our beautiful installation for our new rabbi. Also next month, June 24th, we look forward to the installation of Magnificent Cantor Purpur. We have more events being scheduled around his installation. Another special event you will not want to miss. We also look forward to having you at the Gary Paler Memorial Shalom Golf Outing. It's the first annual golf outing honoring Gary Paler, June 26th at Songbird Golf Club to help benefit our School of Education. Please remember to sign up for the Groove Golf event and join us. And lastly, don't forget we have Minyan and Saturday Torah study and Shabbat service, and Thursday's What's New. And remember, this Sunday there's no religious school for Mother's Day, so all the mothers, please enjoy Sunday. Shabbat Shalom, and thank you.
Yesher Koach, David, thank you so much for those announcements. And also announce a joy to call upon Brian Avner to come forward and make a few more announcements. Brian has been a wonderful presence within our community over for longer than just this year. But this year, as he's taken on the role of being our Director of Lifelong Learning. All right, Director of Lifelong Learning. Director of Congregational Learning. See, I got it. I got you doing it. Well, titles aside, Brian has been absolutely a really wonderful addition to our staff and our community, and he is deserving of all of the kavod. So we can say, let me teach you something. Whenever somebody has done something really wonderful, we say Yesher. Can you say Yesher? Koach. So Yesher Koach, Brian. So let's all say Yesher Koach, Brian.
Shabbat Shalom, everyone. So I was thinking a little bit about Rabbi Pezlowski's story about the two synagogues and the letters that went from, the stuffy and unused synagogue to a place where there was a ton of joy and laughter and celebration about Judaism. And it made me think a lot about our religious school here and a lot about what our teachers do in our religious school, that they make our school feel like a place that the letters of the Torah would want to come and dance and be with us. This hasn't been an easy year in the school. Teaching is already a really difficult thing to do, and this year missing so many crucial elements of what makes teaching easier made it that much harder. We spent much of our year wearing masks, keeping distance in our classrooms, which made it a lot harder to communicate, a lot harder to do small group work, which is really a cornerstone of a lot of what we try and do in our religious school. We couldn't gather here in the sanctuary for services until April. We had some classes in here and some classes watching on a live stream from their classrooms. And even some of our classes couldn't fit in a regular classroom space. They had to meet somewhere else in the building to accommodate all of the students in that grade. And despite all of this, we kept going throughout the whole year. Our teachers collectively taught over 180 students this year in our school. They developed new strategies for teaching in unfamiliar environments. They adjusted their lessons to socially distanced classrooms, and they never stopped trying to create the most fun and welcoming environment for all of our students. And they really did create that environment where the Hebrew letters would come and dance and play. Our teachers did so much. They taught subjects ranging from holidays to Torah stories, Israel, life cycle, Jewish history, and they helped teach our students how to be good people and live Jewish values. In this week's Torah portion, Kedoshim, we read one of the quintessential Jewish texts, Ve'ahavta l'reacha kamocha, you should love your neighbor as yourself. After over a year of being away from our building and from our peers, our teachers helped our students remember each week how to treat each other, how to be good friends and good classmates. As many of our sages have said, this sentence, love your neighbor as yourself, is all of Torah, and the rest is commentary. So in addition to a small gift that I have for each of our teachers after services, as an extra thank you for all the great work that each of you have done, I want to invite all of our students and all of the parents of our students that are here tonight to find your teachers, find any of your teachers or all of your teachers during our oneg, and share with them one thing that you remember from this year that was great. It could be a lesson, a game, an activity, an art project. Share something with your teachers that was a great experience from this year, because as a teacher myself, I know how much it means to hear from your students how wonderful something was. At this time, I want to invite all of our teachers who are here to come join me up on the bima, so we can, all of our teachers come on up, so we can recognize you and so that we can all see who our wonderful teachers are, so we can all send a yesher koach to our teachers, and to join us in leading Kiddush, as Cantor Perper will also help us with the words of Kiddush. And I want to thank you one more time for all of the amazing work that you've done this year, helping our students grow to be the best people that they can be. Toda rabah and yasher koach. Yes. Please rise.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam borei peri hagafen. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kiddishanu b'mitzvotav v'ratzavanu v'shabbat kodsho be'ahava uvratzon hinchilanu zikaron lema'aseh v'reishit ki hu yom techila lemikra'ei kodesh Zecher litziat Mitzrayim Kivanu v'acharta ve'otanu kidashta mikol ha'amim v'shabbat kodshecha ve'ahava uvratzon Hinchaltanu, Baruch atah Adonai, Mekadesh HaShabbat. L'chaim and Yesher Koach to our teachers. Yes, give it up for the teachers. Come on, people. And while the gifts are being handed out to the teachers, I would like to take this moment to thank my partner in crime, who I cannot tell you how much I learn from this gifted song leader and music inspiration, Wendy Cohen. So let's hear it for Wendy Cohen. You are awesome. You are awesome. And I'd like to ask the youth choir to come back up and stand maybe around the piano when we get to the moment of our closing song.
All right, youth choir, this is the
Wait,
moment.
I'm sorry, I'm not done. He's very patient with me, Rabbi. No, he's very patient with me. This was my first year being on the bima with all of these fantastic young singers. And you all know how much we've been inspired by them at every family service that they sing at. And Wendy and I are so proud and so moved and have so much nachas whenever we sing with these students. So let's give it up one more time for the youth choir of Congregation Shalom.
Cantor, what's our closing hymn?
Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom. Shabbat Shalom. Shabbat Shalom. Shabbat Shalom. Shabbat Shalom, everybody. Shabbat Shalom. Shabbat Shalom. Shabbat Shalom. Shabbat Shalom.
For all of our young people who didn't get the big birthday lollipop, you can come up and get a smaller lollipop. We conclude with these words, Oseh Shalom Bimromav, Hu Yaseh Shalom. Elenu ve'al kol Yisrael, v'imru Amen.
Every month. Like, this is the wrong place to do this. Thank you. Head into comedy sports. They're going to start really soon. Yeah, right here, I promise. I promise, I'm right here. I'm just making sure nobody bumps into the fire. Good, just pick one. There's also a ton of candy at the Omer.
Oh, good.
So you don't need this.